Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Noble Knights podcast. Today, we are starting a new series called Knights of the World. Today, we have joining us Ben Winters, author of the book What to Expect When Having Expectations. How are you doing today, Ben?
Great. Thanks for having me.
So, could you introduce us, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So, as you said, my name is Ben Winter. And among other things of being an author, I've done a lot of different things in my life, including I have an improv troupe. I teach improv at corporations and stuff like that so that they can learn some team building skills and better communication. And I've traveled all over the world. Um, I have a kid who's 11, almost 12, and soon enough he'll be going into high school, and it'll be a lot of fun. So that's uh, that's really a very high level of me.
So, do you have any specific degree? Like, where did you go to college?
So I went to college in a little university out in Colorado called the University of Northern Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know about it because they're usually thinking about CU um, or Colorado State University, CSU. So, but I didn't go to either of those. So, and it was just a business degree that I got at the time.
What exactly do you do?
So what I do is I go around to companies who kind of want better team building skills, better communication, more just fun in the workplace, and I teach them improv, not necessarily to be up on stage, but to uh, just have a better work environment. And so anybody who's ever done improv, whether that's in school or they've taken a class outside of school, you kind of start to see the parallels of improv in both uh, your daily life and how it just applies to everything that you ever do. So whether you've ever thought about doing improv or not, I highly recommend just take a class, learn improv. It will help for life.
So, was this like a thing you've always wanted to do since you were a kid?
I think I always wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. I never thought that I was going to be good enough to do so, and I've proven myself wrong multiple times as an adult. So I just didn't have the skills when I was younger. But yeah, I absolutely love doing improv. I love teaching improv. It is just so much fun, and there's never a dull moment when I'm living life this way. So
So, what can you tell us what your book is about specifically?
yeah, so and I'll tie it back to the improv. So part of improv when I'm teaching it is one of the rules that I teach kind of specifically reaches around to expectations, and a lot of people they don't know that they really have expectations, but when you get upset, that's an automatic indication that you had an how's the word? Okay, so whenever you get upset, it's because an expectation hasn't been met. So right there, you automatically now know that you had an expectation, and so it's really a good thing to get upset. I say it's okay as long as you take a moment and realize like why am I upset, and so that kind of moment of learning, expectations, being upset, and all those sort of things come together. I decided to write a book uh, about expectations, and so where they come from, why we have them, what to do about it when you're upset, and it just became this really cool idea and book that people can use to get themselves out of those moments in time where they're just like they're pissed off for some reason. So it just comes back to expectations.
Yeah, I have the feeling because you realize that, oh wow, I'm doing all these things and I really wanted this thing done, and when I didn't get it done, I'm like, well shoot, my expectations weren't met. So what type of situation would that do? Like, how would the book help with that?
So a lot of times, this is the piece that really kind of comes into play for a lot of people is that most of the time we didn't even know we had the expectation
Mm-hmm.
until it goes unmet. And that's where it really comes into play because sometimes we'll know, yeah, I have an expectation of doing this project today or meeting friends out after school, whatever it might be. You have those expectations and then they go unmet. Okay, you're a little upset, so on and so forth. But if you didn't know that you had the expectation, the moment you get upset is a great opportunity to kind of look back and say, oh, I didn't even realize I had that. Um, Sometimes we're we're waiting on somebody to do their part, but did we ever know we wanted them to do that? Did we ever tell them that we them to do that? Um, One of the things I think that a lot of people can relate to is boundaries. How often do we not set boundaries, and then we're hurt when somebody crosses that boundary and does something to us that we really don't like? And so boundaries and expectations are kind of the same thing. And sometimes we don't even know we had the boundary or the expectation until somebody messes with it. So, um, kind of as we grow as people, it's really good to notice these moments in time where you can just kind of stop yourself and say, wow, okay, that's a boundary, that's an expectation, that's something I want to hold on to, that I want to actually exercise in the future. So now I need to actually tell people, this isn't okay with me. Like, don't do that again, or um, this this is what I hope that you'll do in the future, and you kind of have to work with people that way.
So to kind of add on to that is like, is it really fun to go out and work with all these companies and all these people and stuff like that? Like, do you have any good stories of that?
Yeah, so it's really kind of fun when I'm working with some companies. Uh, there's oftentimes somebody sitting in the corner. They've got their arms crossed. They don't want to participate.
Mm-hmm.
They're nervous. They're scared. And throughout the time that we're doing this workshop, they'll kind of break out of their shell and they'll come out and do something. And it's just really fun watching somebody go from really just kind of angry in the corner and doesn't want to be there to like having a lot of fun. And uh, that's something I really like watching, because that's what happened to me when I first took some improv classes. Is it just gave me permission to be silly. It gave me permission to just be who I am, and there was no wrong answer. If I failed at doing improv at that moment, nobody cared. I was doing something most people wouldn't expect to do, and then when I was really good at it, it was like, awesome, I'm going to keep doing this. And so it was just a lot of fun, and I love watching people have that kind of fun and realize that they can just be themselves and it's totally okay.
Yeah, I really like that aspect about improv and even just drama in general. When you're in a performance or a play or something, it's that you can screw up something really badly. But since the audience doesn't know what you have planned before, it's easy to just be like, well, that happened. No one knows it happened, so let's just keep going.
Yep, I've skipped an entire page and a half of a script in a play once, and I had to use improv to get us back on track. It was hilarious, but
Yeah,
the audience clearly had no idea, so it
I've
was
I've
great.
had moments like that before too.
Yeah. So improv is a valuable skill, whether you're on stage, off stage, in a room with a group of people, by yourself. It doesn't matter. It's such an amazing skill to have.
I think it's really good just for social interactions. You can go up and you can almost have a whole conversation with some random dude off the street.
Yeah. Once you become comfortable enough with how to use the rules and techniques of improv, it absolutely helps in social aspects, no matter what. I
So
like that.
where did you take these type of improv classes?
So I live out in Denver, Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
and there were several improv, um, I want to say like buildings, companies, places where they did improv on a regular basis, and they had classes. And the two places that I know of are no longer around. They closed well before the pandemic, but
Mm-hmm.
um, most places that have improv shows also have improv classes, and so that's where I went and took mine, and absolutely just again I fell in love with it. Uh, I walked in not thinking I was smart enough or funny enough or fast enough or any of those things. And the guy said, there's rules to improv. If you follow the rules of improv, you'll be successful. And I was like, that's cool. I can follow rules. What are these rules you speak of? And it just it became so easy at that point, because I didn't have to rely on being funny. I didn't have to rely on anything but those rules, and everything else just took care of themselves.
So do you have any tips on like improv of like what things you were taught?
Yeah, so most people, if you ask them, anybody who knows improv, if you ask them what's like the one of the main rules of improv, you're always going to hear the answer of yes and. Yes and is one of the most common rules of improv, and what that really comes down to is the yes part of yes and is accepting what is in the moment. If two people walk out on stage, two guys walk out on stage, and one says, "Hey, mom, how are you?" The other one has to now accept that they're the mother on that scene. And if they accept it, then the audience is going to have a great time. The actors are going to have a great time, and that guy is now mom on stage. If they walk out on stage and say, "I'm not your mom," and they make something else up, well, now the audience is kind of like taken back. The actor has no idea what's happening, and it's very contentious and it sucks. Um, so in regular life, anytime anything happens to us that we don't like, well, first of all, we have to accept that that's what happened. There's no changing what happened. And if we can accept what happened, then we can move on from there. And that's where the and portion of yes and is. So, yes, I accept what is, and I need to add to it. So, back to the two people on stage, it's like, okay, yes, I'm mom. And now I have to come up with something to further the scene, further the situation. So, on stage, it might be, yeah, I'm fine, except that you just spilled paint in the garage. And so, when are you going to go clean that up? Now we know the mom's upset about the paint in the garage and the scene can move forward from there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's constantly building on itself with the yes and in life it's no different. If you're with a group of people and they're asking you to do something you don't want to do, well, it's okay. I accept that this is what's happening. I'm, peer pressure or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And what can I say? What can I do so that I don't feel uncomfortable? What can I do to set that boundary? What can I do to change the expectations? And so that's very empowering when you start learning that just on a regular daily basis.
Mm-hmm. I know I've like practiced the yes and technique all the time, and I think it's definitely a very useful tool. Like we said, just in general, you can just use it all the time, and it can keep a conversation going, or it can get you out of things, and it's very versatile. I think on stage and off stage.
Very much so. Absolutely.
So to kind of like go off of your schooling, what other activities did you do while you were in school? High school, college?
So high school, I was very, very shy. I was very shy in high school.
Mhm.
So I really didn't do much other than show up to high school, go to my classes, and then go home. At home, I was very much like into video games and just playing because the video games, it's a world. Nobody knows who I am. I'm just there having a good time, and it doesn't matter. In college, I was pretty much the same in college, except that I found rollerblading. So I was always on my rollerblades going around
Mhm.
campus, having a good time. Started hanging out with different kinds of people, different friends, and trying different things. Everybody has to try new things in college.
Mhm.
So I was really no different, and definitely wasn't breaking out of my shell then either. It didn't really happen until after college. So the shyness continued throughout the college. So,
Mm.
but whatever.
So what games did you really like when you're like you said you played a lot of video games? What were some of your favorite games?
Yeah, so this is gonna date me because you guys, I played the original Nintendo back then. So, um, let's see, Legend of Zelda, when that was the first Legend of Zelda. Played that,
Mhm.
Super Mario Brothers, all those various things. So, um, those were my games back then.
Yeah, those are some of my favorites too, especially Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, and it was really nice back then because you could just put the game in, press power, and you're off and running. And now, I've got a PlayStation 4 sitting over there, and every week it's got to update a game for like 3 hours at a time, and then
Yeah.
setting up the PS4 took like a day and a half. Like, it was just, I'm like, I just want to play the game. Come on, why is it so hard now? So, but my son, he doesn't blink an eye. He's on there. He's playing Fortnite. He's playing Rocket League. He's just kicking everybody's butt. So,
Mhm. So like so what do you like to do for fun when you're not working?
so let's just say without the pandemic, I'd be doing a lot of hanging out with friends and doing
Mhm.
improv with some other people. Um, but that's one of the things that I like to do is just go and socialize and hang out with friends because it was something I didn't really get to do a lot of in high school and college. as much as I thought I wanted it. So, my expectations back then were, I was going to have friends and be popular and hang out with everybody, and that just didn't happen. So, I think as an adult, I'm just trying to make up for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like, uh, so with your like with your book, so what other do you have any like situations or an example you could give or anything?
Um, I think what I would rather people know is that it's okay to be upset at any given point, as long as you don't let it run you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I mean by that is being upset is one of those great opportune moments where you can kind of stop yourself and take a look and say, why am I upset? You know, what expectation did I have and why is it not being met at this moment? So, I was upset a lot in high school because I always wanted friends and socialization and all these
Mm-hmm.
other things. Looking back now, I can say, well, I had the expectation that people would invite me to go do things, and that didn't happen. So, I know what role I played. I was too shy. I didn't put myself out there. I didn't even tell people I was interested. And so to expect anybody to even invite me out was just silly because I didn't even let them know I was interested.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, moving forward now, if something doesn't happen and I get upset, I get to take that moment and say, well, did I even know I had this expectation? And if I didn't know, then clearly nobody else knew. And so there's no way I could have shared that information. There's no way I could have set a boundary or talked to anybody about it because I didn't even know about it. Um, and since most of the time we get upset without even knowing we had that expectation, the more that you can practice taking a step back from getting upset and just say, hey, what can I do about this? Um, did I know about it? Can I talk to somebody about it? Will that help resolve the situation? And that's kind of the big piece is that I would just tell people to take out of it. So,
So to kind of like, I think we should like end on a funny note, right? So like, I know in improv you have a bunch of like things just get out of hand and it's just all out hilarious. Do you have like a really good story of that?
oh, absolutely. So one of the games that we play, there's two games that absolutely love playing. Um, I just keep going. Anyway, first of all, we're the rodents of unusual size, so we play a game on live set mousetraps,
Mm-hmm.
blindfolded and barefoot, and it just freaks everybody out. So that's a lot of fun. Um, but that's not the game that I think is the most fun. We actually have a game. It's called Triggers, and what happens is like if somebody says a word like the word little or turtle or some common word, something happens physically to the actor. And when one of the actors claps on stage, another physical thing happens to that same actor. And then if that actor is touched, a third physical thing happens to the actor. So at the beginning of the scene, two actors will start saying words and clapping and touching the person, and a physical thing will happen, like you got to fall down. Sometimes you have to explode. Sometimes you just pass gas.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just start crying. Just whatever the audience decides is supposed to happen physically. And by the end of the scene, it's just constantly words touching, clapping, word, touch, clap, clap, touch, word,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to do three things at once, like for the last 20 seconds of the scene, and it's just exhausting, but it's so funny, and just the audience is just rolling over. Because at some point you forget what the physical things are attached to the thing, and you're just trying to do everything all at
Mm-hmm.
once, and it's so much fun. Um, and so yeah, that's just one of my favorite games to play. It's so physical, it's so ridiculous, and everybody just has a great time.
Okay, so Ben, I'd like to thank you for coming out and just doing this interview. And I think it's really good to have you, especially as the first one, because you are the perfect person to have for the interview. You're very vibrant and everything, and I really like that.
Thanks.
So, up on the screen right now will be Ben Winter's book, What to Expect When Having Expectations. You can order that on all the websites that are shown. And here are our socials right here. And I'd like to thank everyone for watching this episode. I'd like to thank Ben for coming out here and telling his story and inspiring us with something that maybe we might want to do when we are older. And so thank you, Ben, and thank you everyone else for watching, and have a good day.
Thanks for having me.